Hello, I'm Dennis with doityourselfdennis.com, and I'm going to show you in this video how to install tile around a tub surround, ceramic tile. First of all, there's a few tools you're going to need. You're going to need a notch trowel. This is a 1/4 inch by 3/8 inch notch trowel. You could use a 1/4 inch by 1/4 notch trowel, would probably be fine with this too. A variety of putty knives. I've got a 6-inch putty knife, a 1.5 inch, might need a 3-inch, may or may not. Some kind of square, speed square is nice. I like to keep a screwdriver, small screwdriver on hand, a wet rag, pencil, a tape measure, and you'll need some kind of saw, preferably a wet saw. You can do a lot better job with a wet saw, especially your finished cuts. The rough end cuts you can get away with a dry saw. But let's go ahead and get started. I've gone ahead and cut all my pieces for this. Well, not all of them. I didn't cut this piece here. But so to start, what I did was I cut this piece and I've got it set where I want it to be on here, and I've made me some pencil marks, and I've got this to fit just like I want it to fit. And then this piece, now let me point that out real quick. This is what's called bullnose. It's usually 3 inches wide and 12 inches long, or about 12 inches, and it's got kind of a finished nosing on it, so it's kind of rounded and kind of finished. So anyway, so I've got that on there. I've got it where I want it to be. And then we're going to take another piece of bullnose, and I've got an angle cut on it, and it will sit like that. And you're going to want a little bit of a grout line between the two. So that'll sit like that. So that gave me, I made a mark right here where this piece goes. And that gave me my starting point. So measure the rest of it. So what I did was I took a piece of 3-inch bullnose, and I placed it up here, and I got an idea where I needed it to be, and I did that all the way around. Well, I just measured 3 inches down, really, what I did once I made my top mark, and I made a level line all the way around, and then I came down 3 inches and made another line. And then you've got to allow for your 3/16 grout line. That's why there's 2 lines here. So we measure to the bottom line. I mean, you could do this as you went. I mean, you could cut your tile as you went, but it's a whole lot easier to have as many as you can cut to size. It saves your thin set too, because you only got a limited time to work with your thin set. So I'm going to measure from the bottom line to the top of the tub. And what I did was I figured out where my tiles were going to go, and I made a mark. So here, there'll be one here, then one here, and I just made me a little line. And I measured from that line down, from my bottom line at those points, down to the top of the tub, and I wrote it on the wall. Then I cut each individual piece, because it's going to vary a little bit, because this tub isn't perfectly true. So it's going to vary just a little bit, and so I made all my cuts, and that's basically how I did it. So let's go ahead and get started. And so we're going to start with this piece here, and we're going to butter the back of it. Yeah, that'll be all right. Okay, so we got our piece. Actually, I want to take some of that off. She's right. I don't want to put it on the drywall. So I'm going to scrape some of that off. That's what your rag's for. Wipe that thin set off of there. Okay, so you're just going to line it up with your line. Push it on there. Clean off the thin set. Then you're going to put your next piece on. So it goes like that. So I don't want to know. I'm not even gonna. Need a little extra on there. Something I did on this job, which sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but generally I don't, as I put this concrete board on. You could probably get away with, for no more wetness than this is going to be, you could probably get away with some green board, but because the half-inch concrete board is a little thinner than drywall, so you got to kind of take that into consideration. So we're going to put this piece on there. Might need a spacer or two there. Just be kind of gentle with it. Let me get one of these spacers. Lift it up. Put a little spacer in there. No further. Okay, so now we've got that piece in there. Now we're ready to start putting these pieces across here. So again, you're going to butter the back. Something you can do if your thin set starts kind of drying out in your bucket, you can take and either take your mixer and mix it some more. Don't add any more water to it, just mix it up, and it'll kind of bring it back to life. Where did I do my little putty knife? Clean this edge up just a little bit. Just going to kind of wiggle it a little bit. Squish the thin set, spread it out. Set it off. Get you a couple of spacers. We'll go with your next one. spacers in. Okay, so this next one's going to have to be cut. So let me get the measurements and get this cut, and then I'll be back with you. Okay, I made a little mistake. What we want to do, we actually want to do this back wall first. So I've got my piece cut for here. The reason you do that is so your grout line looks better. It looks better if you're coming from this direction. It looks better if it's covered up like that. So to get our grout line to look better, we're going to go ahead and do the back first. So I've got my piece cut, and we go ahead and put some thin set on it. Yeah, you get a little bit extra off the sides. If you got any, a whole lot on here. And it's just going to rest on the deck. Okay, so now you're just going to do your next piece. And you're just going to basically do the same thing. Just go, put the thin set on it, put it up there, put your spacers on, and go on across. So then once we get it all the way across, or we could go ahead and cut this piece. I'm going to go ahead and finish doing the back. So let me go ahead and finish doing this, and I'll be back with you. Okay, we've got our piece cut. A couple of things I want to tell you about. If you're going around a tub like this where you've got to cut around it, a couple of things you're going to want to keep in mind. When you're making this cut here, it's a little bit of an angle. There's about a 1/16 of an inch angle, so it's not a perfect 90. So you want to keep that in mind, and you're going to want to take a lot of measurements, like from here to here, from here to here, all of these points. You're going to want to measure all those so that you get this straight. And something else that's a good idea to do, because you're going to have kind of a rough edge even cutting it with a wet saw, you can buy these files or this grinding stone, like at Lowe's, Home Depot, and they're great. And you can smooth it out real nice. It almost looks like a finished edge once you file it. They also have these they're like a screen, but it does basically the same thing. It just gives you a nice finished look. It's done it so well sometimes that I've had them confused as to which side I'm actually doing. So you want to test fit it, make sure it fits right, and that's pretty good right there. Something else I want to point out. I was talking about the thickness of this. There's not quite an 1/8 of an inch difference between this 1/2 inch concrete board and the 1/2 inch drywall. And you're going to want to keep that in mind when you're putting these on. You're going to have to put it on a little thicker than what you normally would. So what I've been doing is I put my thin set on the back, and also put a little bit on the wall itself. I'll show you here in just a second. It's a little difficult to get it down inside there, but with a little bit of patience you can do it. Put a little extra on there just to give me a little more thickness. You can actually buy trowels that are put a little more thin set on. Those on. The bullnose is going to sit flat. But then it's going to be at an angle. You see how that's at an angle there? So if you make that good and thick. Take the excess off. Wipe it off with your rag. It's not a bad idea to, I took a piece of cardboard and put it in the bottom of this tub to keep from scratching it up or marring it up while I'm in here. Something else you might want to keep in mind. Okay, so that's all set. And next we'll be putting the bullnose on. So let me get that set up and then I'll be right back with you. Okay, we're putting our bullnose on now. Something I want to point out is these bullnose are just about a 1/16 of an inch smaller than these tile. So it's going to change a little bit as you go along, but just try and center it up best you can. What we're going to do is we're just going to put some mud on the back, and we're not going to put any at the very top. So let me get some thin set on. Let me turn this around. I'm not even going to go over it with my Knott's trowel. Okay, sorry about that. I had to answer the phone. So I'm just going to move this on there. Remember, I'm not going to put any on the top lip. We're just going to place it up on there. Squish it down like you normally would. Take your spacers and put them in. Okay. All right, so we're set there. Now we're going to put our next one on. I went ahead and cut these to size, so we're ready to go. I'm just putting it on just a little thicker than what I need, so that some of it kind of squishes out a little bit. Some of that over there. I'm just going to line it up with the one below it, the tile below it. Put your spacers in. Wipe off any excess. And then you just go the rest of the way out. That's all there is to putting the bullnose on. Okay, we're ready to grout this tub surround now. So I've already done part of it around, so we're going to start in this corner. And you just get your thin set, not your thin set, but your grout, and you just work it into the corner with your trowel. Just put some basically on the end of it. You can kind of squish it up in there like that to get it. Put some in the corner to come up. Okay, we got kind of interrupted there for a second. Doorbell rang. So you're just going to work it back in there. A little bit up here at the top. You can take your finger and put it up in there and kind of keep it from squishing out too bad. And you're just going to work it down in there. And just put a little extra in there now, and I'll show you how to take care of that here in just a minute. Just come around the side and just work your mortar into the crack. And again, you can take your finger and put it up there to kind of keep it from gushing out too bad. You're going to want to kind of work it both ways when you come back and scrape it off. You know, you can go just so you make sure you got it up in there good. You take your stuff that's fallen and put it back on your putty knife or your trowel. Put it in your bucket. That's pretty. Go ahead and hand me my trowel or my putty knife real quick. What you can do with your putty knife is just kind of trim off the top, so that kind of push it down in there a little bit, and just kind of wipe it all out. You just wipe it down. You're going to wipe it down. You're going to wait 15 to 30 minutes. Let it set up for a while. And then you're going to take either a sponge or a towel and wipe the whole thing down. Generally what I'll do is I'll wipe it down a couple of times, and then I'll let it sit for an hour or so, and then come back and wipe it down a third time. And then most of the time I'll come back the next day and wipe it down again to stay on there. So that's pretty much how you put your grout in. Okay, when you're getting down to the final wiping, this grout can be a little hard getting it off the wall. You just want to just keep working at it. Just kind of keep wiping it back and forth, and it'll come off. Okay, something else you can do, once it's dry a little bit, You can take a screwdriver or a putty knife and just go along the top, nice and straight, or in the corners. You can get your, so it's, you flatten it out is what you're doing. And just take your trowel or your sponge or rag, whichever you're using, and wipe it off. It'll give you a nice crisp line going across there. Like on the ends, you can cut the corners off. But you'll want to go with, I've already done these, but you want to go with, go this direction and this direction. You don't want to go up and out because it'll tear the corner out. We already tore the corner out of that one.